Hey guys, so today we're silk screening. I'm going to walk you through that process real quick. First thing that you need to do is prep your stencil. So the stencil, if you have your stencil cutouts close to the edge of the paper, then you need to put a strip of paper, one of these recycled strips. You're going to tape it on anywhere that you have cutouts, I'd say within 2 or 3 inches of the edge of the paper, okay? Because otherwise, when you're printing, you can accidentally get ink over here on your shirt, all right? You don't need to tape the whole strip down, just a couple pieces of tape. And put it on the bottom too. And if you have, if your stencil's really big and it's taking up the whole sheet of paper, okay, all the way to the edges, then you can put these paper strips all the way around. All right, just take the time to do it right, and you'll be much happier later when you don't have ink where it shouldn't be on your shirt. All right, so second thing, aprons. So the ink stains clothes, right? It's supposed to. So if you want an apron, they're over by the paper towel holder, all right? Okay, next thing, these t-shirts are pretty thin, all right? So we're gonna stick a piece of paper between the 2 layers of fabric. So when it's your turn, you'll come up with your shirt, and you're gonna be waiting in line over by the supply table, kind of heading towards the windows. Nice and patient, right? All right, so I'm gonna put a piece of paper like this between the 2 layers of fabric, and that way with these thin t-shirts, we won't get ink bleeding through onto the back of the shirt. Now, this part's really important. You wanna smooth the wrinkles in your shirt. You wanna make sure the wrinkles are smoothed on this top surface, but also underneath on the back of the shirt. And then notice how I'm putting the collar hanging off the edge of this board. See that? And that's because the collar creates a bump, okay, that will lift the screen off the surface a little bit. And so if you have that collar seated off the board, it will be better, okay? So I've got my fabric down first, and then I'm going to put my stencil down, okay? And then I'm going to put my screen down. So I've got my stencil where I want it. Make sure that you're really looking and make sure it's lined up on the shirt, positioned how you want it to be. Put the screen into the press, okay, just like this. And then tighten these down, but just a tiny bit, because you're going to tighten them again once you push your screen down. And then lower your screen, and you can actually just push right on the screen to lower it, okay? And then notice if it's moved side to side at all, it won't go all the way down. You want to make sure it's seated between these 2 screws here. All right, and make sure it's pushed all the way down. You want your screen to be sitting right on the stencil. You shouldn't be able to push the screen down a bunch and have all this space between the screen and the stencil. You want to be sitting right there, and then tighten these, not much. You don't need them to be very tight, just barely, okay? And then grab yourself a squeegee, 2 sizes of squeegees, okay? If your stencil design is fairly narrow, then the narrow squeegee will work just fine. If it's wider, then you want to definitely be using the wider squeegee. Okay, so for this moon design, this squeegee, the narrow squeegee, is going to work great. Okay, so ink. We've got lots of different colors of ink, and you can use 2 colors of ink. I'm going to show you 2 colors right now so that you know how to do that if you want to use 2 colors. Notice the spoons are sitting in the lid of the ink, okay? Please, please, please don't rest the spoon in the ink because it will sink to the bottom and then the whole spoon will be covered in ink. So after you're done grabbing your ink, just set the spoon back in the correct lid, and please don't mix spoons in different colors, okay? All right, so this part's pretty key. So you can see when you're looking through the screen, I can see where my paper is and I can see where my shirt is. And what I want is I really don't want to get any ink up on my shirt off of my paper, okay? So I'm gonna take a little bit of blue first, and the more cutouts you have in your stencil, the more ink you're gonna need to use to fill your design, okay? So I am just going to kind of place my ink along the stencil, and you want the ink to sit kind of as wide as your stencil is wide. Okay, get my purple. Okay, so that's probably plenty for this stencil because there's not actually that much cut out. All right, and I've placed it as wide as the stencil itself. And then I'm gonna pull down, I use my squeegee and I'm gonna pull this way, okay? Standing at the edge of the screen over here and I'm pulling this way, all right? Here we go. This is the exciting part. Okay, and when I go back up to the top of the screen, I'm gonna sort of knock some of the ink off and then pull down again. And I can already tell I need a little bit more ink down here. And if I need more ink, I can just put it on the screen where I need it. Give myself just a little bit extra purple. Okay, here we go again. So think of, you want to pull probably at least 10 times. If you have a really big stencil, you might even do it more than that. Knock the ink off back at the top. Okay, and notice I'm really just getting the ink as long as the stencil is, okay? I'm not bringing my squeegee way back up here, okay? That's kind of a waste of ink, and you can get ink up here on your shirt where it shouldn't be. I'm also not pulling all the way down and running into the wooden frame. Okay, that's going to get ink all over the frame that then you're just going to have to clean off. Okay, so just make sure and stop pulling right where your stencil ends. It will be easier for you in the long run. And then if at any point you feel like you have a lot of ink on the screen, you can take the correct spoon and pull off a little bit of blue, grab the other spoon, pull off a little bit of purple, put it back on your screen, okay, and then pull a couple more times. And I'm pushing harder than harder than you think you should have to, okay? It's quite a bit of pressure. And if you want me to pull a few times at the end just to make sure you've got full coverage, I'm happy to do that. Also, if you're doing two colors and you want your colors to blend, mix a little bit in the middle, then you want to shift your squeegee right or left just a little bit, and that's going to create some mixture of color in the center. Okay, so that's probably pretty good. And then if you have any clean ink on the end of your squeegee, you can pull it off with your spoon and put it back in the jar. We try and conserve as much as possible here, right? Put it back in the jar. And then you're going to wash that squeegee in just a minute, but set it down for a sec. Okay, and then when you lift up, and you guys, you can see your stencil through the screen, and you'll kind of know when it's fully inked or when it's not, okay? So when I pull the screen up, you really want the stencil, you want the paper to stick to the screen, okay? The stencil should be coming up with your screen, okay? All right, awesome. And then the adult that's with you is going to give you your shirt to take over to the counter to lay out and to dry, okay? But this is the exciting part, when you get to reveal what it looks like. It's super exciting. So you'll take that over to the counter to dry, and then your stencil at this point will just get thrown away. And come right back, because you're gonna take your screen over to the sink and wash it off, all right? So with the washing of the screen, you're gonna wash your screen and your squeegee. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna get the whole screen in the sink. You're gonna scrub both sides of the screen. Okay, one side, scrub the other side, get it good and rinsed. Scrub off the inside of the frame, the wood frame. Okay, you wanna, even after you think it's clean, keep scrubbing, please, because it's really important that all the ink come out of the screen, or the next person won't be able to print correctly, okay? And then same with your squeegee. Get it good and washed off with the sponge. Please use the sponge. And then you're going to grab a dry towel over at the sink, dry your screen, both sides, and then leave it over at the sink to finish air drying, okay? And then you're done. Good.